much has already happened in the first half, and the acceptance speeches have been on fire.
And the acceptance speeches have been on fire. And the acceptance speeches have been on fire. Who got shouted out the most? Let's look at the numbers.
All right, cast and crew are leading the way with 11 mentions. God, creator of the universe, 0 mentions. No surprise in this godless town.
I want to be clear. We're not waiting until those fires are over to start helping the victims. We're getting them help right now, as you all know. People impacted by these fires are going to receive one-time payment of $770. One-time payment, so they can quickly purchase things like water, baby formula, and prescriptions. So far, nearly 6,000 survivors have registered to do just that, and $5.1 million has gone out.
We're dealing with a myriad of issues. I was just talking to Josh Green, the governor down in Hawaii, who had some ideas around some land use concerns he has around speculators coming in, buying up properties, and the like. So we're already working with our legal teams to move those things forward, and we'll be presenting those in a matter of days, not just weeks.
Our neighbor's house is going up. We're going up. There's no water.
Suddenly, he says, the water stops.
There's no water. I can't save my house.
He tried his best, but the water literally stopped. Not one fire truck.
Today, I found actor Steve Guttenberg with a shovel, putting out hot spots on his neighbor's property. When I grabbed a hose to help, I discovered no water.
Well, there's no water. Steve, there's no water.
Was the water turned off recently, or is it just no pressure?
There's no water at all up here.
Yeah, the fire that he started right now, he lit the match or lit something. It's in the dam, the south side of the dam. There's a fire going now.
Holy shit.
Can you hear me still? Okay, he's walking west.
On the dam.
On the dam. On the south side of the dam.
Towards Burbank.
You've always been on the right side of the issues that we care so deeply about.
Thank you.
And I'm confident you're going to be an outstanding mayor of LA.
Oh,
so,
thank you so much.
You know, but.
Well, you know, I know they were messing with the water, letting reserves go for one reason or another. They've been doing that a while. California has a lot of problems that sort of baffle the mind as far as why they do things. In the events like this, you sort of look, oh, is it on purpose? Which, it's an insane thing to think. But one begins to ponder whether or not there is a purpose in mind. What could it be, you know? I don't know. Do they want the state empty?
Well, Mel, there's already talk, and we played a couple of sound bites of reimagining the way rebuilding occurs, and obviously there's a great need for high-density housing in California and across the country. That's a big push by the climate folks, and you're already hearing rumblings of that. In this case, like goodbye single-family homes, hello high-density housing.
Yeah. It's pretty scary, and it'll take decades to do that too. It's like even if it, you know, if it's a good idea, which I don't know if it is, but reminds me of the old cattle barons clearing people off the land, you know. But I don't know. I can make all kinds of horrible theories up in my head, conspiracy theories and everything else, but it just seemed a little convenient that there was no water, and and that the wind conditions were right, and that there are people ready and willing and able to start fires. And are they commissioned to do so, or are they just acting on their own volition? I don't know. But they seem pretty well equipped, some of these people that they're catching.
Mel, any message from you to Governor Newsom or Karen Bass tonight?
Spend less on hair gel. That's it.
Yeah.
You know, what can I say to them? This was a garage and a guest house apartment on top. But look at this. Look what happens to the insides. Wow, man. It's gutted. It's crazy. Yep. Wow, look at this. Crazy. It's still hot. Wow. Wow.
It's so close.
Wow, man. Right down to the bones, huh? Whew.
It's the photo that's become a symbol of hope amid LA's devastating wildfires. This Malibu neighborhood was just about entirely wiped out, yet amid the rubble, a lone bright blue Volkswagen van from the 1970s somehow remains virtually untouched. Look at the photo. Nearly everything is reduced to rubble, except for that disco-era van. And here is the van today, parked in the exact same spot where Megan left it when she heeded the order to evacuate. She can't come back for it yet because the neighborhood is still closed to the public.
Why is realtors going onto YouTube in the areas to where the fire took place, showing houses that stayed and houses that was burnt down? And as you see him pan to this one, well, what is this? This is grass with a burnt down house. In fact, look at this one that I just paused on. There's a kid's toy, plastic, still sitting there. Grass, but houses demolished and burnt down. Could someone tell me these things? Why?
There's been anger during the LA fires at State Farm Insurance after it was revealed that last year it had dropped policies for a large number of California property owners. Now comes this. State Farm just canceled its planned Super Bowl commercial, a follow-up to last year's ad featuring Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito that was voted most popular.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Cut! State Farm has just announced it's pulled its new Super Bowl commercial due to the devastating Los Angeles fires. Last year's commercial was a huge hit with viewers, featuring actors Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger, who plays an insurance agent saving pets from a family's home that's going up in flames.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Today, State Farm announced, our focus is firmly on providing support to the people of Los Angeles. We will not be advertising during the game as originally planned. The insurance giant faced criticism last year after it declined to renew 72,000 policies in California due to the wildfire risk. It now says it will offer policy renewals to thousands of people impacted by the fire. Frustration continues to grow among fire evacuees not allowed access to their homes.
I live right here, just when I go to my house.
Unfortunately, we can't let anybody through. It's a hard closure.
If I burn down, it's okay. I'm fine with that. Why is that a no?
Actor Mel Gibson was one of the few homeowners able to catch a ride in with firefighters to view his once sprawling Malibu estate.
Wow.
Today, nothing remains of the $18 million property.
This was a garage and a guest house apartment.
I was just talking to Josh Green, the governor of down in Hawaii, who had some ideas around some land use concerns he has around speculators coming in, buying up properties and the like. So we're already working with our legal teams to move those things forward.
Yes! This is what victory feels like. Yeah! And this was no ordinary victory. This was a fork in the road of human civilization. Okay. This you know, there are elections that come and go. Some elections are, you know, important, some are not. But this one this one really mattered. And I just want to say thank you for making it happen. Thank you. My heart goes out to you.
The Bible that was given to her husband by his mother, and the one that was used by
and carries our flag into new and beautiful horizons. And we will pursue our manifest destiny into the stars, launching American astronauts to plant the stars and stripes on the planet Mars.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, James David Vance, do solemnly swear.
I, James David Vance, do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
That I will bear true faith.
That I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same.
and allegiance to the same.
That I take this obligation freely.
That I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation.
without any mental reservation
Or purpose of evasion.
or purpose of evasion.
And that I will well and faithfully discharge.
And that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties of the office.
the duties of the office
On which I am about to enter.
on which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. Vice President.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Chief Justice Roberts to administer the presidential oath of office.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the office of President of the United States
the office of President of the United States
and will, to the best of my ability,
and will, to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution of the United States.
the Constitution of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
I can't seem to wrap my head around one thing. About a year ago, Mr. Trump was promoting and selling the King James Bible.
This Bible is the King James Version and also includes our Founding Father documents, yes, the Constitution. All Americans need a Bible in their home, and I have many It's my favorite book. It's a lot of people's favorite book.
But at the inauguration, he wasn't able to put his hand on the book anymore. And I thought, what a strange thing. I remember Trump placing his hand elsewhere. Oh look, he's doing it with the sacred wall.
Hear the cry of the hostages, both American and Israeli, whose pain our president so acutely feels. We are so thankful for the 3 young women who yesterday returned home, and pray that the next 4 years brings peace to Israel and throughout the Middle East.
My proudest legacy will be that of a peacemaker and unifier. That's what I want to be, a peacemaker and a unifier. I'm pleased to say that as of yesterday, 1 day before I assumed office, the hostages in the Middle East are coming back home to their families.
And may our hearts be inclined to your voice. We know that America can never be great again if we turn our backs on you. We ask for your help, and we pray all of this in the name of the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, your Son, my Savior, and our Redeemer, Jesus Christ. Amen. And our Redeemer, Jesus Christ. Amen. And our Redeemer, Jesus Christ. Amen. And our Redeemer, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Melania looks like she's attending a funeral of some sort, with this weird out-of-place outfit, but it's probably just more occultism, like when Trump and Melania met Pope Francis for the first time officially. The women have always been seen wearing black outfits when meeting the Jesuit Pope.
He's the photographer who took the now famous provocative images of Melania Trump when she was a young model. The year was 1999. At the time, Melania was dating real estate mogul Donald Trump when she landed a 14-page fashion spread in British GQ.
Great.
Antoine Verglas was the photographer. What was she like?
She was pretty reserved and private.
He showed me this photo of Melania posing in a bikini on the wing of Trump's private jet, pointing a gun. When you look at these pictures, this does not scream reserved or private.
No, it was a challenge. It was a challenge. The idea was to portray her as a James Bond girl.
Oh, you were portraying her as a James Bond girl.
Yes.
Was Melania nervous to do these pictures with you?
Yes, of course. You know, you are always a little bit nervous.
For this cover photo, sprawled out on a fur inside the plane, Melania wanted only 2 people on set.
It was me and the stylist.
And this was on Donald Trump's plane?
At the time? Yes.
Donald Trump offered the plane?
Yes.
25 years later, Melania is celebrating her racy photo shoots as she promotes her new memoir, Melania.
Also thank my beautiful wife, Melania, First Lady, who has the #1 best-selling book in the country. Can you believe it? Oh, no, she's done a great job, works very hard to help people. So I just want to thank her, but I want to thank my whole family, my amazing children, and they are amazing children.
I want you to take a closer look at these cadets. You can see young Donald Trump front and center in this photo. Trump was placed as the cryptic tip of the spear in the New York Military Academy. And the definition of the tip of the spear is interesting, to say the least. It says a person or group of people that is the first to do something considered difficult or dangerous, especially a group of soldiers, because these combat-ready units typically spearhead conflict operations. Conflict operations. Yup.
Today I want to update you on the next stage of this momentous medical initiative. It's called Operation Warp Speed. That means big and it means fast. A massive scientific, industrial, and logistical endeavor unlike anything our country has seen since the Manhattan Project. You really could say that nobody's seen anything like we're doing, whether it's ventilators or testing. Nobody's seen anything like we're doing now within our country since the Second World War.
Trump also bragged how he got along with the Jesuits during his years at Fordham University. The following reads, "I began by attending Fordham University in the Bronx, mostly because I wanted to be close to home. I got along very well with the Jesuits who ran the school, but after 2 years, I decided that as long as I had to be in college, I might as well test myself against the best." And you can read the rest, of course.
This week, I will reinstate any service members who were unjustly expelled from our military for objecting to the COVID vaccine mandate with full back pay. And I will sign an order to stop our warriors from being subjected to radical political theories and social experiments while on duty. It's going to end immediately. Our armed forces will be freed to focus on their sole mission, defeating America's enemies.
President Trump's first full day back in office included a major announcement about artificial intelligence that'll bring jobs to Texas. The president stood next to the CEOs of OpenAI, Oracle, and SoftBank to announce a $500 billion project called Stargate. The project would build new data centers and electricity generation needed to power AI. Texas will serve as a launch point, with the first of the data centers being built in Abilene.
Thank you, Mr. President. One of the most exciting things we're working on, using the tools that Sam and Masa are providing, is a cancer vaccine. It's very interesting. It turns out, I'll be quick, all of our cancers, cancer tumors, little fragments of those tumors float around in your blood. So you can do early cancer detection. If you can do using AI, you can do early cancer detection with a blood test. And using AI to look at the blood test, you can find the cancers that are actually seriously threatening the person. So we can, again, cancer diagnosis using AI has the promise of just being a simple blood test. Then beyond that, once we gene sequence that cancer tumor, you can then vaccinate the person, design a vaccine for every individual person to vaccinate them against that cancer. And you can make that vaccine, that mRNA vaccine, you can make that robotically, again using AI, in about 48 hours. So imagine early cancer detection, the development of a cancer vaccine for your particular cancer aimed at you, and have that vaccine available in 48 hours. This is the promise of AI and the promise of the future. The first data centers are actually under construction in Texas already, and we'll be turning them over to Sam to start training their next model. The data center we already built, it was the largest computer ever built. The data center we're building will surpass it and be the largest computer ever built, which enables this AI, which will allow personalized medicine. This is going to touch all of us. Yes, it takes a huge investment, but the result of the investment will be vaccines that prevent cancers, personalized medicine, where we never again run into a problem like COVID-19 before, because we get an early warning. We know when COVID starts, when there are a handful of patients, rather than having to wait until it's become an epidemic and very difficult to control. This is a very large investment that affects all of humanity.
say it's going to be. It's not going to be made anywhere else. And if Bitcoin is going to the moon, as we say, it's going to the moon, I want America to be the nation that leads the way, and that's what's going to happen. This is, to me, a very big thing, $500 billion Stargate project. I think it's going to be something that's very special. It'll lead to something that could be the biggest of all.
What do you say to them that there are rails to make sure that it doesn't go out of bounds?
Yeah, there are hundreds of millions of people using these tools today. It'll go to billions. People are using it and really dependent on it for all sorts of great things in their lives. Like any new technology, we do have to put some rails on it. You can imagine ways it could go wrong. But if you look at the safety record, what we've been able to ship so far, what I think we'll be able to do in the future, the benefits of this tremendously outweigh the downsides. We have to be responsible how we do this. We have to build it carefully. But I think people are really good and people will do, on balance, incredible things with this technology. The scale of this investment obviously is huge. And what I think that says about the likely progress of the technology, at least what all of us believe, is correspondingly huge. But I have enormous faith we'll figure it out.
And the first one in Texas?
First one in Texas. Already going.
When you go to the hospital these days, if you're using a modern system, using a modern system, the doctor will get a little note written by AI describing what the purpose of the appointment, and then that note will have your latest lab tests and your so the doctor is prepared when they meet with the patient. The AI will actually listen to the conversation between the doctor and the patient and make recommendations and improve the likelihood that the patient's going to get a high quality of care. It's easier for the doctor, it's better outcomes for the patient. It's really a revolution in medicine, but it's a revolution in many other industries as well. Medicine just touches us all.
The renewal of the Jewish state is something that I think touches all of us. For 2,000 years, we were a stateless people, and now we have a country of our own, defended by all the brave men and women of the IDF. So anything we can do to support them, who devote their lives for preserving the state of Israel, keeping the people safe, and allowing our state to continue sometimes in very, very difficult situations. I have been to Israel. I have been to the border. I have spent time to the people who govern the state of Israel, and I feel a deep emotional connection to the state of Israel and the Israeli people. We love the country of Israel, and we'll do everything we can to support the country of Israel. Well, again, it's a difficult situation, isn't it? To conduct military operations around civilians is very difficult. And of course, there were tragedies, and civilians were hurt. That's a terrible thing. But one thing we know for certain, that the Israeli army did everything they could to minimize civilian casualties. And in that regard, they've done a much better job than a lot of other armies all over the world throughout history.
Congratulations, President Trump. Sarah and I send our warmest wishes to you, Melania, and the American people. I believe that working together again, we will raise the U.S.-Israel alliance to even greater heights. I'm confident that we will complete the defeat of Iran's terror axis and usher in a new era of peace and prosperity for our region. On behalf of the people of Israel, I also want to thank you for your efforts in helping free Israeli hostages. I look forward to working with you to return the remaining hostages, to destroy Hamas's military capabilities and end its political rule in Gaza, and to ensure that Gaza never again poses a threat to Israel. I'm sure, Mr. President, that under your leadership, the best days of our alliance are yet to come.
Mr. President, that you can keep the ceasefire in Gaza and conclude the 3 phases of this deal.
I'm not confident. That's not our war, it's their war, but I'm not confident, but I think they're very weakened on the other side.
Do you support the 2-state?
Gaza, boy, I looked at a picture of Gaza. Gaza is like a massive demolition site. That place it's really got to be rebuilt in a different way.
Do you plan to help rebuilding Gaza?
I might. Gaza is interesting. It's a phenomenal location. On the sea, the best weather. You know, everything's good. It's like some beautiful things could be done with it, but it's very interesting. But some fantastic things could be done with Gaza.
How do you see the future in governance for Gaza?
Well, it depends. I can't imagine you could have, well, you certainly can't have the people that were there. Most of them are dead. This, David, is?
Yeah, this is the crypto EO. We're going to be forming an internal working group to make crypto, to make America the world capital in crypto under your leadership.
Which is really going up, right?
Absolutely.
You find them exciting? They might not be exciting, but they're going to make a lot of money for the country. Okay?
Lastly, sir, we have an executive order ordering the declassification of files relating to the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, Senator Robert F. Kennedy, and the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
That's a big one, huh? A lot of people are waiting for this for years, for decades. And everything will be revealed. Okay? Give that to RFK Jr.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned another JFK document that's very important and I think will interest you. One of the things that's withheld and is in the JFK collection right now is the testimony of James Angleton about the Israeli nuclear program. It's a 113-page document, heavily redacted to this day. The redactions clearly pertain to Israel. If the president and this effort are serious, that testimony will be declassified because Angleton controlled the Oswald file on the one hand, and he was a contact with the Israelis on the others.
Why would the Dimona project, the Israeli nuclear program, which has never officially been admitted by anybody but Israel, what would that have to do with the assassination of JFK?
There were profound conflicts between Israel and the Kennedy White House over the nuclear program. Kennedy was pressing for on-site inspections, which the Israelis resisted because they would have realized that they had a bomb-making program. Angleton was called in and he was grilled about lots of things, about domestic spying, about the Israeli nuclear program, about the JFK assassination.
It is interesting that one of the only major policy changes that Johnson made in the year after the president's murder was on the Israeli nuclear program.
He dropped the demand for on-site inspections. He dropped the demand that AIPAC be classified as a domestic lobby. And this is a tough call for the president because he's going to get very strong pushback from his national security apparatus, supported by Israeli interests, to say, no, you can't talk about that. That's not permitted.
Immigration problems, right? Definitionally, when you invite people to the country and come in saying they hate Jews, you can't expect them to stop hating Jews the minute they cross the threshold of American territory. So we're going to be careful about things.
I didn't want to give you a chance to respond to what they said about you. I think the first one accused you of being a Christian Zionist. I'm not really sure why that is a bad thing. I'm a Christian. I'm a Zionist. Zionism is that the Jewish people deserve a homeland in the ancient Holy Land where they've lived since the dawn of history. Do you consider yourself a Christian Zionist?
Senator, I'm a Christian, and I robustly support the state of Israel and its existential defense, and the way America comes alongside them is a great
Thank you. Because another protester, and I think this one was a member of Code Pink, which, by the way, is a Chinese Communist front group these days, said that you support Israel's war in Gaza. I support Israel's existential war in Gaza. I assume, like me and President Trump, you support that war as well, don't you?
Senator, I do. I support Israel.
All right, you were listening.
If I were president, and I say this, I will end that war in one day. It'll take 24 hours. I know Zelensky well. I know Putin well. I would get that ended in a period of 24.
You can break that deal.
100%. It would be easy. That deal would be easy. A lot of it has to do with the money. A lot of it has to do with the military, we're giving. But I would get that deal done within 24 hours. That war has to be stopped.
Не вижу в этом проблемы, что Украина хочет в НАТО. Украина хочет жить нормально с Европой, так же, как и нормально с Россией.
Я знаю, тут недавно
в одной из академий американских проводились учения штабные, и там гипотетически 2025 год разрабатывается ситуация, что Америка воюет с двумя государствами, Китаем и Россией, и причина войны как раз то, что Украина начала войну с Россией на стороне НАТО.
Существуют люди на Западе, целая группа, которая хочет, чтобы Украина как можно быстрее вступить в НАТО, в том числе и чтобы спровоцировать некий конфликт, и в том числе, чтобы превратить Украину в реально буферное государство. На самом деле, самое опасное не вступление Украины в НАТО, это довольно долгая перспектива, если это произойдет. А самое неприятное, что Украину и украинцы в руководстве разыгрывают как буферное государство.
Do you know the real reason why TikTok was banned in the United States? Obviously, because China is collecting its users' data and spying on US civilians, and because China's government is conducting influence operations. While this of course might be true, I don't doubt it. And the real reason is much simpler. It's the overwhelming online protests in support of Gaza and the Palestinians. And you will hear this straight from the horse's mouth, what I'm saying. Which I find it to be very ironic, of course, because Israel is supposedly defending itself by expanding its territory. The Greater Israel Project, you know, the eternal victim Israel, the eternal victim status, and they couldn't stop the people from speaking out online, so of course they had to shut it down.
很多的犹太团体盯着 TikTok，TikTok 上面支持加沙走廊的70%，然后对不起，支持以色列不到1%，70-1。你说犹太人怎么受得了 ？TikTok 无意中就得罪犹太人，犹太人的力量在美国绝对比川普更可怕。对了，所以现在一发动，你看两党都赞成了，为什么？以前两党不是问题吵来吵去吗？为什么不吵了？就是犹太力量在后面推。因为那为什么会弄出说，要么你收摊子，要么你卖给美国人，其实不是卖给犹太财团，就没事了。
Why has the PR been so awful? I know that's not your area of expertise, but you have to have some thoughts on that, which is, I mean, as you've said, why has Hamas disappeared in terms of public perception? An offer is on the table to have a ceasefire, and yet the world is screaming about Israel. It's like, why aren't they screaming about Hamas? Accept the ceasefire, bring home the hostages. It's said it's all the other way around. I mean, typically the Israelis are good at PR. What's happened here? How have they and we been so ineffective at communicating the realities there and our point of view?
Now, of course, we are on an intravenous feed of information with new impulses, inputs every millisecond. And of course, the way this is played out on social media has dominated the narrative. And you have a social media ecosystem environment in which context, history, facts get lost, and the emotion, the impact of images dominates. And we can't discount that. But I think it also has a very, very, very challenging effect on the narrative.
Yeah, a small parenthetical point, which is some wonder why there was such overwhelming support for us to shut down potentially TikTok or other entities of that nature. If you look at the postings on TikTok and the number of mentions of Palestinians relative to other social media sites, it's overwhelmingly so among TikTok broadcasts. So I'd note that's of real interest, and the president will get the chance to make action in that regard.
Язык никогда не будет делить нашу родную страну.
Прекрасно я владею русским языком, конечно же.
У меня еврейская кровь, Я говорю по-русски, но я гражданин Украины.
Поэтому я не уважаю ни руководителя или директора сегодняшней России,
Уважаемый Владимир Владимирович,
ни этот народ. Путин говорил, что да мы же один народ, мы же, смотрите, мы на одном языке говорим и так далее.
потому что Россия и Украина, мы действительно братские народы.
В начале войны по-русски обращался к русским. 0. Они немые. Они не слышат, они не слышали.
Я знаю миллионы, я знаю тысячи людей, которые живут в России, замечательные люди.
Так как эти люди глухие, честно, их презираю. Поэтому и при всем уважении хотел бы давать интервью на украинском языке. Для меня это очень важно.
И к нашим украинцам хочу обратиться. Ребят, мы великий народ, вы великий народ. Мы одна страна, абсолютно. Мы все друг друга безумно любим. Я вас кохаю. Все.
Володя, с такими евреями мы великий народ. Спасибо.
Спасибо.
Я так пошучу.
Ничего.
Дякую.
If I were president, and I say this, I will end that war in one day. It'll take 24 hours. I know Zelensky well. I know Putin well.
You've called for a ceasefire in Ukraine. If Vladimir Putin doesn't come to the table to negotiate with you, will you put additional sanctions on Russia?
Sounds likely.
Are you going to keep sending weapons to Ukraine, or are you going to turn off the tap soon?
Well, we're looking at that. We're talking to Zelensky. We're going to be talking with President Putin very soon, and we'll see how it all happens.
How come they have hypersonics and Russia has hypersonics? We don't. Oh, you ready?
Because during Obama's administration, they stole the design for Russia stole the design. They got it from
us.
Some bad person gave them design. It was our job. Now, I authorized the building of hypersonic, and we're doing super hypersonic, actually, which is even a step better. But and we'll have them starting fairly shortly. But Russia got them, and they built them. Whereas they stole them during the Obama administration. Obama, not Biden, not anyone else. They probably stole plenty from Biden. We'll hear about that too. But they stole the hypersonic stuff, and they made hypersonic missiles.
So let me get this straight. Some bad Russian stole the design for hypersonic, and they actually managed to build the missiles. So I guess by this logic, America had no copies, and they stole the original design. And so therefore they forgot everything they have built to that point, everything they've designed. This is like saying, yeah, we had the technology in the 60s to go to the moon, but we've lost it now. We don't know how to do it anymore. Does anyone watching this video even believe this nonsense? I mean, it's kindergarten level lies.
Many things are happening that are exciting.
Can you assure the world that as you try to get control of these areas, you are not going to use military or economic coercion?
No.
What is the strategy?
Yeah. I can't assure you. You're talking about Panama and Greenland. No, I can't assure you on either of those two. But I can say this. We need them for economic security.
And can you elaborate again? You didn't rule out military coercion.
Well, we need Greenland for national security purposes. I've been told that for a long time, long before I even ran. I mean, people have been talking about it for a long time.
Are you also considering military force to annex and acquire Canada?
No, economic force. Because Canada and the United States, that would really be something. You get rid of that artificially drawn line, and you take a look at what that looks like. And it would also be much better for national security. Don't forget, we basically protect Canada. put very serious tariffs on Mexico and Canada, because Canada, they come through Canada too, and the drugs that are coming through are at record numbers.
Only 20% of Greenland is habitable. 56,000 people live on the frigid island nation. So why would President-elect Donald Trump possibly use military force to overtake the country?
The resource-rich territory could be strategically vital to the U.S. Alex Hogan is in Greenland with more on what locals think about Trump and the idea of becoming the 51st state.
Greenland's location in the Atlantic makes it strategic defensively. It's home to the northernmost U.S. military base, and melting ice means new potential shipping lanes opening up. The largest island in the world is also rich in minerals. President-elect Trump's interest in Greenland is a hot topic on the island. This time last week, Donald Trump Jr. made a private visit to the Danish territory. That's when the president-elect said he wouldn't rule out taking the island by force. Some Greenlanders are scoffing at that statement.
The United States used to be a place that was sort of admired here. And basically all the goodwill that they used to have is almost gone now.
Greenland has been self-ruling since 1979, although Denmark still controls its foreign and security policies. The island's Prime Minister Mutta Eagle this week reiterated calls for independence, saying Greenlanders don't want to be American. Still, he pointed to a closer partnership with Washington.
Of securing Greenland, I think there actually is a real opportunity here for us to take leadership to protect America's security, to ensure that those incredible natural resources are developed, and that's what Donald Trump is good at. He's good at making deals, and I think there's a deal to be made in Greenland.
What is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? These 6 things qualify Donald Trump to be named the first Jewish president of the United States.
That's what the Times of Israel said.
Again, that was not David Duke's newsletter.
Right.
It's a Jewish-owned newspaper. And they're proclaiming Donald Trump to be the first Jewish president of the United States. So now when you look at this David Elias Goldberg saying that a White House insider told him that President Trump converted to Judaism 2 years ago.
Suddenly it doesn't sound so crazy, does it?
No, it's not too crazy. Okay, so let's just, what if it's true? What if it's true? What does that say to you, Doc?
That says to me there's been such a major shift in values in America. It's no longer Judeo-Christian values anymore. It's Judeo values now.
Yes. The Christian Zionists, I think, would applaud him.
You do? You
yes,
think they would applaud him?
I do. I believe the Christian Zionists would applaud him. I think John Hagee and Kenneth Copeland and Paula White and all of them, I think they would applaud him. They would say, we embrace his Jewish, his newfound Jewish faith. We embrace it.
Do you think the Jewish people believe you should be broke?
Are you saying that Jewish people appreciate money more than real?
No, they believe in wealth. The blessing of Abraham. Abraham was extremely wealthy, and he had a covenant with God. It's not the Jewish blessing, it's the Abrahamic blessing. God, I get excited talking about it because I love it.
Because Israel and America share values.
Right. And that would just be the ultimate, wouldn't it?
And I think where we're headed, and we're too late into the day here to continue this conversation, but I think where the Zionists are trying to take us is I don't know how this would be done, a religious, economic, political union between Israel and the United States. Look, in the early days of this country, many of the early Christian settlers here proclaimed America the new Israel.
Yes.
And then we remember Netanyahu telling
Mike Pompeo.
Mike Pompeo, you're the new Israel.
Yep, the new
and
Jerusalem.
We're like, what is this all about? Yes. Okay, I think where they're headed is that there's going to be a merger of the United States and Israel, and America will be declared Greater Israel. Okay, so you have millions of Jews still living in New York City, Miami, and many cities. They're not interested in going to Israel.
Right.
So why not just declare the USA part of Israel? and just be able to tell them, you don't have to move over to the Middle East. You're already in Israel. So there would be millions of people who would say, that's a good idea. That's a great idea. Israel and the United States form like they were trying to start years ago, the North American Union, the United States, Canada, Mexico. So what if the United States and Israel created some type of union and America was part of greater Israel? Don't rule it out. We have been Zionized so bad, so deeply, that none of this is impossible right now.
Yes.
And you have Christian leaders who have sold out Jesus Christ. They've sold him out, and they would go for it.
Yes.
And they would tell you that this is God's will.
John F. Kennedy was short-circuiting the New World Order. He had ordered the printing of constitutional money, United States notes, which would have destroyed the Federal Reserve, which is not an agency of the United States government. It's a private corporation owned and operated by the world bankers, controlled by the Illuminati. And its purpose was to destroy the middle class in this country and thus our economy, and throw us at the mercy of the New World Order.
And we see this unfolding now.
You see it unfolding now. You are seeing, and I predicted this well in advance, you are seeing the destruction of the economy of the United States. And it will continue. It will not get better. It's downhill from here on out.
How high up a government official do you have to be before you're briefed of this, you know, the total of all the things that are going on, the reality behind them?
Well, you have to understand that nobody exists on a high level in government who's opposed to the New World Order. Nobody. Our government has literally been infiltrated, and there's a cancer within our government destroying it, eating it, nibbling away at it, hacking off its limbs.
And you said this started in 1945?
1945 was when the overt destruction began to occur, when Truman signed the UN Participation Act and the United Nations Treaty. It actually began long before that, when these secret societies began to infiltrate the government and appoint their members to important posts. Infiltration is easy. If one gets in, he can then appoint and hire others to replace people who are not members below him.
So now we've had over almost 50 years of this going on.
At least. I believe that it started back probably 1913, 1917, when the Federal Reserve Act was passed, when the Council on Foreign Relations became a reality in this country. And you can, by diligent research and study, you can see when it happened, where it happened, who did it, and how it was done. It's apparent. When they say there's no conspiracy, I mean, we talk about a conspiracy. It started out as a conspiracy. But when they say today there's no conspiracy, that's not a lie, it's the truth. They are doing it right out in the open, right under our noses, and we're too stupid to know it, to see it. So it's not a conspiracy now today, at all. It's right out in the open. They even published their plans.
Now, the Carter administration was one extreme, and then we came into the Reagan administration, yet
nothing changed.
Nothing changed. What you're saying is that no matter what the political leanings, they seem to be playing the same game.
As long as you're playing their game, it doesn't matter who you vote for, who you put in office. They all belong to the other side. They're in the pockets of the Illuminati. When you quit electing professional politicians, when you quit electing the guy who looks nice on television because he speaks good and he looks like the guy you wanted to marry or something like that, you're playing right into their hands. You know, they've made it so impossible for another Abraham Lincoln to get elected to the office of president that it's a wonder that we even have a chance at all.
Well, then, you know, then people would say, well, the American government's not interested in that because money is not in you know, it's the oil here. We're talking about money.
No.
So you're saying it's not even that.
No. They've been planning this war for years. In fact, Arco Press wrote a book about it. The name of the book is Rapid Deployment Forces. It was published in 1985. It names Kuwait as the country. It talks about Operation Bright Star, where they've been practicing the war every year since the early 80s. Sending troops over there practicing the war, liberating Kuwait. It's even named in the book. The whole thing was spelled out years ago. What it was all about was to establish the New World Order. You see, because for the first time in the history of the world, it's established the legal international precedent that the United Nations could pass a resolution and send its police force to enforce that resolution, and that the member nations would have to pay for that action. And George Bush said it very clearly, but nobody was listening when he said, no longer will any nation stand against a world united. And with that action, he established the legal foundation in international law that the United Nations is now legally and overtly the one world government, and that the United States military forces and the other forces that were sent by other countries were established as the one world police force under the United Nations. Have you seen the new Air Force uniforms yet? Nowhere on them does it say United States or U.S. They are United Nations uniforms. Go look at them.
What role in the Middle East again does Israel play in this?
Israel was created as the instrument to bring about the Battle of Armageddon and the fulfillment of prophecy, a war that will be so terrible, where nuclear weapons will be used, so that the American citizens and the other people in the world will get down on their knees and beg for no more war. And what is the answer to that? They're going to be told the only way we can guarantee no more war is if we destroy the sovereignty of nations and we come together as one humanity in a one world government.
Right.
You see, because we didn't have a national security agency or a central intelligence agency before the UN Participation Act was signed. And these organizations were created to bring about the one world government, the New World Order. And it had to be done in a manner that the people would not know that it was being done, and the only way they could do that was hide it behind the veil of national security. And the Cold War was a manipulation maintained to bleed the people of tax dollars to fund the creation of the police force of the New World Order, which is the Army, Navy, and Air Force and Marines of the United States and the Soviet Union. And the people didn't rise up in the Soviet Union and overthrow communism. It came from the top down because it had to be done. There has to be a bringing to the same level of all the peoples of the world to approximately the same political viewpoint, so there's not big disparity in order to be able to justify the merger of all these countries together.
Well, who now is ruling the forces of the former Soviet Union? You have Yeltsin in now. As Gorbachev supposedly went down, but we're not sure about that.
Well, let me tell you this. From the beginning, there was never any war between the United States and the Soviet Union. It was created by those at the top to fund the New World Order and the New World Order's police force. At the highest levels of all countries, they all belong to the same club. And we, the people, sit back and we watch this grand drama which is being played out for our benefit, not theirs. If it wasn't for us, they wouldn't even have to do any of this. But you see, they just can't come out and destroy all of us because they need slaves. They need people to make their shoes and make their cars and mine the ore. They need worker bees, and that's what we are. In the New World Order, we will be the worker bees, the slaves. Do you think a man that looks pretty and sits in front of a TV camera for the 6 o'clock news is worth $2 million a year? No way. I don't care how long he works and I don't care what he does. There is no job worth $2 million a year. That's why they pay athletes these fantastic salaries. I was listening to the radio the other day. They just contracted to pay one player on one team $6 million a year. Can you believe this?
And why is that?
It's the Roman circus. What does the emperor do when the people become restive, and when the people are asking questions, and when the people don't like the policies of the emperor? He sends them to the circus. He creates a circus. He builds a giant coliseum. And he begins to throw the Christians to the lions. And he has great chariot races and football games and basketball games, all to keep the idiots preoccupied with things that don't mean anything in the scheme of the entire world, so that they don't have the time to learn what the truth is, so they don't ever get smart enough to learn how they're being manipulated, so they don't ever question the emperor.
In our meetings today, the Prime Minister and I focused on the future, discussing how we can work together to ensure Hamas is eliminated and ultimately restore peace to a very troubled region. I also strongly believe that the Gaza Strip, which has been a symbol of death and destruction for so many decades and so bad for the people anywhere near it, and especially those who live there, and frankly, who's been really very unlucky. It's been very unlucky. It's been an unlucky place for a long time. Being in its presence just has not been good, and it should not go through a process of rebuilding and occupation by the same people that have really stood there and fought for it and lived there and died there and lived a miserable existence there. Instead, we should go to other countries of interest with humanitarian hearts, and there are many of them that want to do this, and build various domains that will ultimately be occupied by the 1.8 million Palestinians living in Gaza, ending the death and destruction and, frankly, bad luck. This can be paid for by neighboring countries of great wealth. It could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 12. It could be numerous sites, or it could be one large site. But the people will be able to live in comfort and peace, and we'll make sure something really spectacular is done. They're going to have peace. They're not going to be shot at and killed and destroyed like this civilization of wonderful people has had to endure. The only reason the Palestinians want to go back to Gaza is they have no alternative. It's right now a demolition site. This is just a demolition site. Virtually every building is down. They're living under fallen concrete that's very dangerous and very precarious. They instead can occupy all of a beautiful area with homes and safety, and they can live out their lives in peace and harmony instead of having to go back and do it again. The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it. The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it. We'll own it. And be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area. Do a real job, do something different. Just can't go back. If you go back, it's going to end up the same way it has for 100 years. I'm hopeful that this ceasefire could be the beginning of a larger and more enduring peace that will end the bloodshed and killing once and for all. I do see a long-term ownership position, and I see it bringing great stability to that part of the Middle East and maybe the entire Middle East. And everybody I've spoken to, this was not a decision made lightly. Everybody I've spoken to loves the idea of the United States owning that piece of land, developing and creating thousands of jobs with something that will be magnificent in a really magnificent area that nobody would know. Nobody can look because all they see is death and destruction and rubble and demolished buildings falling all over. It's just a terrible sight.
To secure our future and bring peace to our region, we have to finish the job. In Gaza, Israel has 3 goals: destroy Hamas's military and governing capabilities, secure the release of all of our hostages, and ensure that Gaza never again poses a threat to Israel. I believe, Mr. President, that your willingness to puncture conventional thinking that has failed time and time and time again, your willingness to think outside the box with fresh ideas.
Talking tonight about the United States taking over a sovereign territory. What authority would allow you to do that? Are you talking about a permanent occupation there? Redevelopment?
I do see a long-term ownership position, and I see it bringing great stability to that part of the Middle East and maybe the entire Middle East. And everybody I've spoken to, this was not a decision made lightly. Everybody I've spoken to loves the idea of the United States owning that piece of land, developing and creating thousands of jobs.
You have a long memory. We have a long memory. And may our relationship continue to endure. We're going to continue to grow our defense industrial base. We've supplied munitions that were previously not supplied, that are useful in eradicating radical enemies, and we are committed to continuing to do so. So I hope you've noticed here at the Defense Department under President Trump, we are laser focused on reviving the warrior ethos, on rebuilding America's military, and reestablishing deterrence, which is something you, Prime Minister, have done in your neighborhood in impressive, aggressive, and important ways. So it's an honor to welcome you to the Pentagon on behalf of the Department of Defense. Thank you for spending the afternoon with us, sir.
Well, thank you, Mr. Secretary Pete. You've been a great and stalwart friend of Israel. And we see President Trump and the team that he's put together as extraordinary friends, extraordinary patriots of America, and therefore also champions of the American-Israel alliance. I truly believe Israel obviously has no greater friend than the United States, and I think the United States has no better friend than Israel.
At this stage in the video, we're going to go back to the beginning and focus our attention to a man who was selected by Donald Trump to be an ambassador and a representative for Hollywood, Mel Gibson, whose house got burned to the ground in Los Angeles fires. And to my surprise, I have accidentally discovered that Mel is a Jesuit, and at the very least might as well be a Jesuit coadjutor. There are many positions in our society that a Jesuit can take. It doesn't have to be a position of a priest all the time. And it doesn't really surprise me that much that Mel is a Jesuit, knowing about his strong Catholic background, but still, it makes you wonder why President Donald Trump, another Jesuit, chose specifically Gibson to bring back good old Hollywood. You see, it's a tricky thing really, a complete mess to be honest. The Zionists and the papacy, the Vatican, have always hated each other, but they also work with one another to bring about their so-called utopia. The founder of the Society of Jesus, Ignatius de Loyola, was a mixed Jew himself. Thankfully the Lord Jesus will clean all this garbage that has been made, and here you can actually see a picture from 2012 where Pope Francis, before becoming a pope, is wearing a kippah and is about to light some beautiful candles. And under the picture in small letters it says, Pope Francis is about to light the menorah during Hanukkah celebrations in Buenos Aires, Argentina. So I thought, that's an interesting picture and I should include it as well. But anyways, Mel's father, Hutton Gibson, held ultra-traditional Orthodox views on Catholicism and was in denial of the Holocaust and the Pope. There is this specific quote I want to read. Hutton Gibson belonged to a splinter group of Catholics who reject the reforms of the Second Vatican Council of 1962 and 1965, known as the Vatican II. These traditionalists seek to preserve centuries-old orthodoxy, especially the Tridentine Mass, the Latin Mass established in the 16th century. They operate their own chapels, schools and clerical orders apart from the Vatican and in opposition to it. But even among these outsiders, Mr. Gibson, who had early in life attended a seminary before dropping out, was extreme in his views. He denied the legitimacy of John Paul II as Pope, once calling him a Quran kisser, and said Vatican II had been a Masonic plot backed by the Jews. It is my honor to announce Jon Voight, Mel Gibson, and Sylvester Stallone to be special ambassadors to a great but very troubled place, Hollywood, California. They will serve as special envoys to me for the purpose of bringing Hollywood, which has lost much business over the last 4 years, to foreign countries, back bigger, better and stronger than ever before. These three very talented people will be my eyes and ears, and I will get done what they suggest. It will be again like the United States of America itself. the golden age of Hollywood. So this is how I discovered that Mel is a Jesuit. It's what's written under the picture of him and this Jesuit Bill Folco from 2003. I mean, the outfit itself is a dead giveaway as well. But it says Bill Folco and Mel Gibson, as Mel receives an honorary doctorate at Loyola Marymount University, Los Angeles, May 2003. Loyola Marymount University is a private Jesuit and Marymount Research University in Los Angeles, California, located on the west side of the city in Los Angeles. And they even have IHS Jesuit logo on this shield, on this emblem of university, which of course is the logo of the Jesuits.
I'm Father Bill Folco from Loyola Marymount University in Los Angeles. I first got involved with SIGEP in 2002 when I was asked to be a faculty mentor for our Cal Chi chapter. I really knew nothing about fraternities. I had entered the Jesuits right out of high school, so didn't have a chance to get to know fraternities. So it was quite a mystery to me. I'm certainly grateful that my first real experience of a fraternity was SIGEP, because I was so impressed with the young men who were in the fraternity. Some very difficult things happening to some of the members, of family members dying unexpectedly, really deep personal problems. And the way I saw the men rally around one another and have one another's back so impressed me that I said, I really would welcome being a part of this. These are men I'd like to get to know. I think my role in SIGEP has been to be a safe place. You know, you're dealing with men at the most formative period of their life. I mean, ages 18 to 22, so much is happening in men's life, and by some education is simply head to head. You know, what's in my head, I'll pass on to your head. I think of the essence of Jesuit education is it's heart to heart, it's person to person. And our system of education is very interested in the whole person, not just intellect, but also emotions, one's regard for society, for the needy. We talk about making our men for and with others, and that just fits so naturally into what is the Balanced Man program of the fraternity. I'm Father William Folco. I am a Jesuit in the Jesuit community here. My official title is I'm the National Endowment for the Humanities Professor of Ancient Mediterranean Studies. My major job is to run our archaeology program. There were several phases of it. I was in on the script level, so there's a lot of debate about the script, because I was also a theological consultant. So a lot of the script I had suggestions or problems with, and Mel Gibson and I would argue. I won some battles, some I lost altogether.
Here tonight, legendary actor, director, our friend Mel Gibson is back, who is out with a gripping new thriller. I've liked every movie Mel's ever made, to be very honest with you. It's at the top of my list, The Passion of the Christ. Anyway, it's called Flight Risk. Sir, how are you? Great to see you.
Good, Sean. How are you doing?
I'm good. First of all, I'm really sorry for you, for all the people in California, all that you've had to live through. Also, congratulations on your appointment by President Trump.
Yeah, well, you come with nothing, you go with nothing. Everything in between is just a bumpy adventure, right, Sean? I'm living in gratitude. Trump's out, I found out I was some kind of ambassador at the same time as you did, probably on a tweet. So I was surprised, but hey, I'm ready, willing, and able to be of service in any way I can.
You did not get a phone call about it. You just heard about it. I read it. I think it was a Hollywood Reporter.
Yeah. Well, I think Trump shoots from the hip, And but hey, I'm here to be of service,
Yeah, good for you. And I know Sly feels the same way, and John Voight feels the same way as well. And I think the three of you actually can really help. The film industry has been hurt in so many different ways, in part because of rules and regulations and high taxes, like so many other liberal Democratic states. How bad has it been? You've been living through these wildfires. You read about hydrants that don't have water. You read about cutting firefighters' budgets. You read about reservoirs that are empty. I mean, it's got to be frustrating.
Well, it is. And this confluence of events coming together, there are those who say, hey, they must have done it on purpose. I won't go that far. But if they didn't do it on purpose, I think they certainly facilitated it. And you know, my heart goes out to all the other residents. You meet people all the time who've lost their homes, and you know, you talk and commiserate and buck each other up, and everyone's putting on a brave face. They're a good bunch out here. I'm glad Trump's here at the moment. You know, it's like Daddy arrived and he's taking his belt off. You know, so I think he'll get some results here quickly. And you know, as far as being an ambassador goes, I think, you know, looking at tax incentives, I know Newsom gave some tax incentives, but maybe not enough because it's still not working.
As now an ambassador for Hollywood, you know, what is your message for the mayor?
It's, you know, keep the kids on the farm, you know, and be competitive with the rest of the world. I mean, we're just going, like what you said with Wall Street and everything else, we're going somewhere else because it's more cost effective. There's just a lot of prohibitive regulations and things in the way that I think could be lifted. But I'll talk with the guys about that later and get more specific. And I have to educate myself on that more too. But I think it can be fixed.
My understanding is you have in the works maybe a sequel to The Passion of the Christ, which I'm very interested in, if that happens.
As far as the resurrection goes, yeah, that's in the works. It's ambitious, and but I'm pretty excited about that, and I hope to get the wheels grinding on that sometime this year.
There was a lot of opposition to it, and I don't know. I think if you ever hit on that subject matter, you're going to get people going, because of course it's big subject matter, and it's like you know. And my contention is, you know, when I was making it, it was like, you're making this film, and the idea was that we're all responsible for this, that his sacrifice was for all mankind, and that for all our ills and all the things in our fallen nature, it was a redemption. So, you know, and I believe that, you know, I actually am, you know, I was born into a Catholic family. I'm very Christian in my beliefs, you know, so I do actually believe this stuff to the full. So depicting that was an honor, but it was also, yeah, you got the daylights beat out of you for it. Yeah, sure, it's gotten a bad rap, and people do feel free to beat up on it. Mm-hmm. Even I do when I see it's like, you know, when it's not fair, or when I think it's off. You know? Like, you know, when they appoint some cardinal in some diocese and he's been covering up for like people who are child molesters.
Yes.
Or, you know, like Theodore McCarrick or Cardinal Wuerl or those kind of guys. I mean.
Or the Pope.
Yes, absolutely. I'm
Benedict.
Not Benny. Well, he was covering up, but like, so is the guy now. And,
is he really?
Well, yeah. Yeah. It's not great.
I thought he was like the more progressive pope.
Oh, he's very progressive, yes,
but he's covering up for stuff as well. Well, they all are. I mean, it's a dark institution in a lot of ways because it's history. You know.
Well, you know, the institution, it was instituted by Christ, you know, but that doesn't mean that it can't be flawed. And there's a school of thought that says it isn't what it purports to be anymore. It's moved away from what it was intended to be and what it is. Almost, there's a guy called Bishop Vigano who says it's a counterfeit parallel church, and it's running an entirely different religion. I actually don't adhere to a post-conciliar church. I adhere.
Can you define what that means?
Okay. There was an event that happened in the 60s. First, there was an event in the Vatican where they elected John the 23rd Pope, right, in 1958. I was 2 years old, right? He was elected, and there was a very funny thing that happened in the conclave. You know, usually there's white and black smoke that goes out of the chimneys to tell you, we have a pope, you know, habemus papam, you know, and the white smoke came out. And everybody cheered, and they went crazy. And then about a half an hour later, black smoke came out. That never in history has that happened. That the white smoke came out, and then the black smoke.
So white smoke means we found a new pope. Black smoke means no pope.
That's right. They'd have votes, or there'd be one reason or another they'd have a round in the conclave, and black smoke would come out many times maybe. Maybe it would take 2 weeks. But never was it known that white smoke came out, then black smoke came out.
So what was the scenario?
That somebody was elected, and that maybe something else happened, and he was pushed aside and someone else was put in. So it was
power struggle.
Some kind of power struggle. And, of course, the man who came out was a man called Angelo Roncalli, and he was John the 23rd. Now, it's interesting to note that never had a pope taken the name of another pope ever before in history. But this man took the name of a known anti-pope from the 15th century that Cosimo de' Medici put in there as his own man. I'll get you in the chair, and then everything will be rosy. You know, everything will go good for business. You know, whatever he was putting him in there for, some corrupt reason. But and there have been corrupt men in that place before. I mean, there's Alexander VI and Julius II and Sixtus IV. I mean, some of these guys are, you know, they're not saints. So he took the name of a known anti-pope from the 5th century, who actually said, yes, I'm an anti-pope. Sorry, I'm not the right guy, because there was more than one, and he confessed to being, and he wanted to, you know, square things with the Almighty, I guess, so he confessed to being an anti-pope. And so he took the same name as that guy, John the 23rd. So it's interesting, don't you think? I mean, why would he do that?
Well, whenever you have that kind of power, like I'm sure you've been to the Vatican, right?
Yeah.
It's stunning.
Yes, it's huge.
It's so great. When you're walking around, you see just the massive amount, just the dollar value in the art that they possess.
Yeah.
It's fucking insane.
It's crazy, yeah. And, you know, it's a very small country. It's a country.
Yeah, it's a country inside of a small city.
Yeah.
Because Rome's not the biggest city.
No.
And then it's got a country inside the city.
Yeah.
With walls around it.
Sure.
And you can't extradite people.
Yeah, pretty weird.
How convenient.
Yeah. Even Ratzinger, he didn't drive from the Vatican to the other place. He flew.
Ooh.
And it was only a little while, because who knows why. I don't know.
Well, he was wanted.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, he had done, one of the things that he had done was he had moved a priest that had molested 100 kids, and he moved him to some new place where he molested deaf kids.
Yeah, yeah. Boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
That's the dirtiest, most evil practice that the Catholic Church has been accused of.
I think so, and many institutions as well,
Yeah.
but that is a very bad one. And I think it's all part and parcel of the same corruption that crept in. And when you asked what's the difference between pre-Vatican II, so Vatican II happened, and of course they took the church and they reformed it, and they changed things in it. And it didn't necessarily agree with everything that went before it. And up to that point, yeah, you could find it agreed with itself. But all of a sudden, you got something else, to the point where now, I mean, we got a pope that brought a South American idol into the church to worship.
Really?
He did. The Pachamama. He bought the South American, and he got.
I don't know what that is.
It's kind of like a South American god, Pachamama.
Why would he do that?
Good question. But he did.
Did he have an explanation for why he did it?
Yeah, it's kind of a weasel-worded thing of like, oh, all religions are just as good as one another. But, you know, if that's his contention...
He shouldn't be the Pope.
No. I mean,
how can you be the Pope if you say all religions are just as good?
Yeah, we all worship, you know. So, yeah, there's the Pachamama. There you go.
So he brought that in.
Yeah, into the Vatican. Then the hierarchy even worshipped. They had a ceremony around it outside.
What?
So, well, that constitutes apostasy.
Yeah.
That's an apostasy move, all right?
Worshipping false gods.
Yeah. That's number one on the Mosaic hit list. You know? Moses goes up on the mountain, he comes back down, people are worshiping a golden calf.
Yeah.
You know, it's that.
Yeah.
So you can't do that. And for me, that's a departure from... you know, that's called apostasy.
Right.
That's a falling away from it. And the very nature of apostasy means that you have to be part of it to fall away from it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an inside job.
Ah.
So,
So what do you think there's a motive behind these things?
I don't think you, well, probably.
What do you think it is?
I don't know. But it isn't good. I think, look.
So when you're making this resurrection movie now, you also have this obligation. There's this, you're doing a very similar thing that you were doing with the Passion of the Christ, where this is a profound story.
Yes.
When you put something like that together, how do you choose who's going to be the next Jesus?
You use him again.
Caviezel.
Yeah, I know. It's 20 years later.
Too.
It's 20 years later, but it's...
Yeah, but it's the right guy.
Yeah, but it's supposed to be 3 days later, but he got 20 years older. And I think I have to use a few techniques that they've started to get really good with
The
face.
CGI and they can do amazing things now.
You can actually get some of the same people.
And by the time you film it, it'll be even better.
Yeah.
When are you going to start filming?
I'm hoping next year sometime. There's a lot required because it is, I'll just tell you this, it's an acid trip when we wrote it. It is like, I've never read anything like it. And my brother and I and Randall all sort of congregated on this, so there's some good heads put together, but there's some crazy stuff. And I think in order to really tell the story properly, you have to start with the fall of the angels, right?
Yeah.
Which is you're in another place. You're in another realm. You know, you need to go to hell. You need to go to Sheol.
So you're going to have hell? You're going to have Satan, all that?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Sure, you got to, yeah.
Right.
You got to have his origin.
How do you depict that?
This is a good question. And I think I have ideas about how to do that. And ideas about how to evoke things and emotions in people from the way you depict it and the way you shoot it. So I've been thinking about it for a long time. So it's not going to be easy, and it's going to require a lot of planning. And I'm not wholly sure I can pull it off, to tell you the truth. It's really super ambitious. But I'll take a crack at it. Because that's what you got to do, right? Walk up to the plate, right? So I think I can get it. But it's not about me, you know?
Right.
It's about something else.
Well,
So-
if anybody can do it, you can do it.
Well, I hope so. 'Cause
Yeah.
It's trying to find the way in that's not like cheesy or obvious, but that actually it's almost like a magic trick in a sense. It's diversion. It's obfuscate this, show that. Look over here. You know. I don't,
Yeah.
It's.
Do you have a title?
Yeah, it's just like the resurrection of the Christ. Yeah, it's like so. That's a title, and yeah, it's very ambitious. That's all I'll say. It took a long time to write. It's really ambitious, and it goes from like the fall of the angels to the death of the last apostle.
Do you have a start date?
I don't have a start date. I just have to begin pre-production and see what happens. And it's just going to roll in its own time. It's taking its own time. I thought it was late. I thought, oh, it's taking too long. It's taking too long, but it's probably just right. Yeah, it's when it's supposed to be.
Yeah. Well, if you believe that, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I hope you're right.
I think I'm right. My instincts are that I'm right.
Yeah, yeah.
And if I was going to trust anybody with that story, it would be you.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a massive thing, and theologically, it's something that you have to really look at and make correlations that ring true, because it's not all written.
Do you consult with someone, like a biblical scholar?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness, yeah. Yeah.
There were several phases of it. I was in on the script level, So there's a lot of debate about the script, because I was also a theological consultant. So a lot of the script I had suggestions or problems with. And Mel Gibson and I would argue. I won some battles, some I lost altogether.
Were the Jesuits involved in the Passion of the Christ movie that came out in 2004? One of you wrote to me and let me know about this, and I looked for somebody that had the closing credits to the Passion movie. I'm going to play a little bit here. I'm going to just mute the sound. But the movie ends and it says directed by Mel Gibson. And you go down here quite a ways towards the end. Okay, right about here. The producers wish to thank the following for their assistance. And you see some names here showing up. And right there it is. Legionnaires of Christ and the Jesuits. So yes, the Jesuits definitely had a hand in creating the Passion of the Christ. That movie was a fake Christ, an antichrist. That's why his one eye was darkened. Better learn about the Jesuits, and you better stay away from this satanic movie that Mel Gibson brought out.
Consult with someone, like a biblical scholar?
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Oh, my goodness, yeah. Yeah. And, of course, there's your own a thing that comes into it from having read the book a few times. You read the book a few times, and it's amazing how your memory, how there's these recessive files somewhere in the background, how you can correlate this piece to that piece over there. And that's important because juxtaposition is everything with this story. And what it means in a bigger picture.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's hard to explain, but it's quite involved.
Yeah, well, I can only imagine.
Yeah. And I don't know that you can do it in a foreign language because the concepts are too difficult now. So that you may have to resort to the vernacular so that that at least is clear.
Is that up for debate right now with you?
Yeah, it is. I'm thinking But look, have you seen these apps now where they have this AI stuff where the guy's talking German and then he switches to French and then he's Spanish and then Chinese? And, have you seen that?
Yeah.
And his mouth moves and it's the same voice. I mean, it's crazy what they do. So,
So you're going to use that kind of a tool, do you think?
You could.
Will you begin it in Aramaic or in Hebrew?
Maybe. Yeah, Aramaic is really the kick, isn't it? But I think I've written it in English, but I wrote the last one in English too and translated it.
I used to have a Qigong master. This is what kind of blows my mind about medicine and about ancient stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This guy was from Shanghai. He didn't speak much English, right? A little bit. His wife would translate for him. And he'd come in and he could point at you, right, from this far away, and you'd feel it. But feel it as palpable as someone pushing you around. It's like, ugh.
Really?
Yeah. I'm not kidding.
What year was this when this was happening?
Oh, shit. I met him when I was 40.
Yeah?
He only just passed away.
Damn, too bad. I'd like to meet that guy.
Oh, no, there's people like him. There are others like him. Oh, yeah, he's not the only one. He learned it from somebody, and I think he imparted some knowledge. But, he would get you, and he could point at you and stuff like that. And it makes you wonder, how did they build the pyramids, I mean, if he can use his mind and kind of get into quantum physics and move shit around with thought and with energy. There's actual energy coming out of his fingers. They could have built the pyramids like that. I don't know. Maybe somebody had that down somewhere. But
I'd like to hear a better explanation.
Me too. Well, it was really weird. One time he was working on me, and he was working on my liver. He said, "Your liver's blocked," because he looks at you. And if you look at him, he looks away. And his wife engages you while he checks you out. And then he gives you a little body map, and he puts X's all over it. And you go, yeah, that's right. I got a pain here and a thing there. And he knows where everything is. He knows exactly what's going on.
Did you ask him is he seeing your aura? What is he seeing?
Everything. He sees everything. He was an allopathic doctor first. He went to medical school. He could write you a prescription. He could do all that stuff. He was a doctor. And then he saw a Qigong master, this old guy, and people were lining up getting cured, and he thought, that's really interesting. And he learned that on top of being an allopathic doctor. So one day he's at me on my back, and he's pushing, and I can feel my back, and I'm at the wall, and there's a poster of a film on the wall, you know, in my office, and I'm looking at it, and I can see him in the background, and he's like down like this, like like kung fu, pointing rays of energy at me. And he hit me, he started yelling at my organ, at my liver, like, get out, you know, whatever. And I went up the wall, and there was like 8 inches of air under my heels. And I was up the wall, and I was like, whoa, and I came back down, and it freaked me out. And I looked at him, and he just went, he said, don't die, it's just science, like that. And I said, just science, okay.
Just science?
Yeah, just science. And I was so freaked out, I went to a priest. I said, is this guy demonic or something? Because he's lifting me off the wall. And the priest was like, he was an old Jesuit, right? A traditional old guy. And he was a cross between Jimmy Stewart and Elmer Fudd, you know. That's the way he sounded. And I said, is this anything like demonic about this guy? Like he says, whoa, did he heal you? Like that. And I said, why, yes, he did. And he said, that's all right then. And he says, I have no trouble with something like that, because it was within the realm of possibility that somebody had power like that, and that it's inexplicable, but that it works. And it did work. He just passed away. He was pretty old.
There was a place that, you know, I bought a comedy club out here, and before the building that we bought was the Ritz Theater on 6th Street, but before that I was under contract to another building, and then this other building was owned by a cult. And this is a crazy story. The cult was awful, horrible. There's a documentary on it. It's called Holy Hell. And this guy who was a gay porn star and a hypnotist. He was a yoga instructor. Got a bunch of people in West Hollywood, and then eventually moved them all out here to Austin. But what this guy was doing, one of the things that he would do to his disciples is he would do a thing called the knowing. And they had to be chosen for it. They had to earn it. And when he would get them and bestow the knowing upon them, he would touch their head, and they would have this incredible experience where they said they contacted God. Now, all these people denounced him eventually. They left the cult. They all said he was a con man and this and that. But they all talked about that experience, and they said it was the most profound experience of their life, that they really do feel like they came in contact with God. And it's like, what can a person, if a person truly believes, and this other person truly believes that they can do this to them, and they have this moment, and something does happen, like what is that all inside of us? Do people have ways of pulling that out of you that we've lost track of, that we don't know? And even an evil person who's running a cult and manipulating people and exploiting people, he still has this thing that he was able to do to them, that even after they've admitted that this guy exploited them, they say that was the most profound moment of their life.
That's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I think, there are party tricks that you can get.
Right, but is that party trick, if it really is a pathway to connect you, at least temporarily, with God, that there is a thing inside of us?
Well, that's why I went to the priest, because I thought, because I'm off the floor.
Right.
So I thought, I got to check this out, because this is too weird. And he said, did he heal you? And I said, he did. And he said, that's all right then. Because the guy wasn't trying to get anything out of me.
Right.
In fact, he never charged me.
Really?
The first time I went to see him, he charged me. And it was like, okay. And then he never charged me again. And he used to call me when I was sick.
Really?
I wouldn't call him. He knew when I was sick. He'd call me. He said, I need to come see you. I'm like, okay.
So he had like some sort of a direct line with your energy.
Something. Pretty amazing.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing how people are willing to entertain the idea that they are in direct communication with God while visiting demonic homosexual yoga instructors, or having their own personal Tai Chi masters from Shanghai who are able to lift them up from the floor. But somehow they will not pick up the good book and be satisfied with its pages. where you can truly find the living God, where you can have a personal relationship with Him, where He can teach you His word and show you His ways. I guess it's the rebellious and sinful nature of who we are, anything but the Bible. So I guess that's the end of the video. I definitely had some difficulties and rough days lately. There were some forces stopping me from continuing this project, but the prayer and the Lord's word has lifted me up again, time and time again. And one more thing before I leave. I think I will be saying this at the end of every video, Lord willing, if I will be able to make them. I will try to make it as short as possible, of course. My productivity depends on the financial help and support from the body of Christ. And as I stated in my previous video, and I have to be real with you, it's just how it is. If my finances are on the low end, then of course I have to move to a secular work to meet my family needs, and of course it takes away my focus from making videos and keeping an eye on the world. I'm a one-man team and I'm a married man, so many of you understand this, but yeah, that's just how it is. You can watch my other video called A Different Kind of Video or something like that, where I explain the situation in greater detail if you want to. I think it was around the same time I have started this project, and I made the video about my financial situation, so I just had to finish this one up. That's going to be it for today, and of course thank you for watching, thank you for your prayers, and may the Lord Jesus Christ be with you all. Have a great day. Bye.
It's an honor to be here with the first Jewish president of the United States. And if he isn't, he should be.
Who has heard the poem called The Snake? So I have it. Does anybody want to hear it again? You sure? Are you sure? So here it is, The Snake. It's called The Snake. On her way to work one morning, down the path along the lake, a tender-hearted woman saw a poor, half-frozen snake. His pretty-colored skin had been all frosted with the dew. Poor thing, she cried, I'll take you in, and I'll take care of you. Take me in, O tender woman. Take me in, for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman, sighed the vicious snake. She wrapped him up all cozy in a comforter of silk and laid him by her fireside with some honey and some milk. She hurried home from work that night, and as soon as she arrived, she found that pretty snake she'd taken in had been revived. Take me in, O tender woman. Take me in, for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman, sighed that vicious snake. She clutched him to her bosom. You're so beautiful, she cried. But if I hadn't brought you in by now, oh heavens, you would have died. She stroked his pretty skin again and kissed him and held him tight. But instead of saying thank you, that snake gave her a vicious bite. Take me in, O tender woman. Take me in, for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman, sighed the vicious snake. I have saved you, cried the woman. And you've bitten me, heavens why? You know your bite is poisonous, and now I'm going to die. Oh, shut up, silly woman, said the reptile with a grin. You knew damn well I was a snake before you took me in.